Hello everyone, welcome to our latest in the Ask the Expert series of videos. Today I'm joined by a couple of gentlemen from TE Connectivity, specifically the Industrial Business Unit. They come from a company that I know as Ernie. This is a Connect company that I've known about for many, many years, so I'm excited to learn a little bit more about how these products have evolved, how the change from Ernie to TE has happened and some of the advantages. And so I'm going to ask my guests to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Jet Srijangam. I'm part of the Ernie team since 2017. And based on the Ernie time, I got the experience from industrial market and automotive market. And since February 2022, I'm part of the TE family. And now I'm responsible as a regional product manager for MA market, especially industrial board signal products.
Hi, so my name's Phil Hamilton. I worked for Ernie Electronics for 16 years before the move over to TE Connectivity after the acquisition. My responsibility lies in the channel business for the Ernie products and growing the Ernie brand across the EMEA region.
So I'm going to leap in with the first question because I'm familiar with Ernie in a way that probably is very much old-fashioned and is from the past. But Ernie is a name that's been around in the connect industry for some time. How has the company grown and how has the company changed?
Well, like all companies, technology evolves and so do the companies around it. Ernie's actually more than 75 years old. I think a lot of customers know us in the market for backplane style connectors, especially in telecoms and datacoms. We talk about DIN connectors or hard metric connectors, but really that's the old picture of Ernie as a brand. Our newer products, and when I say new, I still talk about for the last 20 to 30 years, have really evolved into small miniaturized connectors, focusing on high performance, high speed, or high power, depending on the requirements, but continuing the ethos of very much high reliability in high vibration situations. What it's allowed us to do is expand into different markets. And pre-TE acquisition, I would say our two biggest markets tended to be automotive and industrial automation, two industries that really, truly rely on very much high reliability in rugged environments. So that's really where the products have gone. And you'll see our current portfolio really matches that.
Fantastic. I mean, if we look specifically at that, so we were talking about, you mentioned industrial automation, you talked about the automotive market. These are clearly environments that rely, as you say, on things that are built to last. And you touched especially on vibration, because obviously that's a key issue when we're talking about connectors. So what is it that Ernie really brings to that game that makes Ernie stand out?
Yeah, it's an interesting point, and it's a collection of characteristics, really. I mean, the most important thing is the pioneering technology in the design. There's so many hidden features of the products that perhaps the end customer would never realize are there, whether it's in the design itself or the manufacturing process. But what we find is the customers test these to such a high level. I mean, especially if we take the automotive side, we don't claim to be an automotive manufacturer, but the products are commonly used from headlights or onboard chargers. The new EV market is huge for us, but really they've taken a product that can meet the requirements in a rugged sense in the field, and perhaps even surprised us in some ways how apt these products that perhaps were not designed intentionally for that market, but can meet all of the goals that the market needs. And it's replicated. You see that we have some automotive official approvals for parts that shows, a much higher level of testing that perhaps we would have intended to do, but also we are incredibly happy that it meets those requirements. Now we start to see those same products expand out into all industries because customers in, for example, medical recognize that being automotive approved, it means that the product meets every tough regulation and requirement that it could require to be effective in the market. And most importantly, not have any problems with connectivity, which is key as a connector manufacturer naturally.
Well, that's really interesting. Oh, sorry, Jet, I interrupted. Carry on.
Yeah. We have to say, originally, we're coming from industrial market, or we have focused our product into industrial market. But during the time, we figured out that our product can meet automotive requirement pretty well. And so in that case, a couple of years, 2015, 2016, so we decided to focus on automotive market and industrial market as a focus market for any product. And then we decide, okay, what kind of product can be meet different focus segment, like as Phil said, headlight, integrated power electronic, or battery management system. But in that case, we also provide our product very successful in industrial market, like PLC, automation control, or automation sensors, or robotics. This is also a part of our focus segment. And so for now, we figure out that in case of fine pitch technology or high speed technology, so we are really very strong. And additionally, we are really very strong in topic of miniaturization. And this is our main key topics, key features, which we want to continue, we want to improve, and to really to match future customer-oriented solution.
Fantastic. Actually, that brings up a couple of things that I find interesting. The first is the use of automotive grade products in non-automotive environments. It's something that I think I've talked about a couple of times, and I think it's interesting for designers, for engineers. Automotive products are ideal for those industrial applications because they are designed to be such high reliability products. They're designed it to be made in such vast quantities that there are lots of both technical and commercial advantages to using automotive grade products in non-automotive applications. And the other thing that you touched on there, Jet, you were talking about miniaturization and high speed, because that's one of the things that I know about Ernie from my old experience of Ernie, is that you guys were always very good at high speed and high data rates. So I take it you're using that expertise and bringing it into these demanding environments.
That's correct. So talking about the miniaturization, looking into the system, so you will see that the black box is always the trend will be miniaturized. So that means breakdown to the component, like our connector. So we need to think about as well how we can match the trend of miniaturization. And additionally, we have the technical requirement, talking about the mechanical requirement and electrical requirement. And nevertheless, we need to match the requirement. So additionally, miniaturization, all customer always expect that we have a very safe mating process. And so we have additionally guide alignment, which is, the challenge is really talking about the miniaturization. It's very critical to have a robust design, mechanical design to fulfill the mechanical requirement from market side. And so in that case, if it's made, then we have to guarantee the electrical requirement. If the pin and the female is connected, so we have to ensure that the connection is really safe and provide the right electrical requirement. So overall, we have to say that due to miniaturization, for us as a connector provider, so we have also to touch the challenge of the miniaturization, how we can consider the miniaturization, but nevertheless, do not forget to fulfill the market requirement.
Brilliant. That's worth reiterating, the fact that the connectors aren't just electrical devices. They are mechanical devices. They need to be able to be used They need to withstand the environment they're in. And it's important to remember that the design of the connector is vital when it comes to actually making sure that it will withstand these environments. The other thing I wanted to touch on before we move on very briefly is power. So even as things are getting smaller and even as data speeds are going higher, we also have the demand for greater power capabilities. I take it that Ernie is still very much involved in that.
I think we have to make the difference a little bit, talking about the power. So originally, any product is providing to application like signaling, data transmission. And so we are talking about the application which has low current and low voltage. As I said, signaling application and high power for sure. We have to make a little bit different which level we are talking about. And I think in case of power, for sure, we have a suitable connector solution which we can provide. But I think in that case, we need to know the clear requirement. And additionally, we can also provide connection solution approach, which we can do kind of hybrid connectivity. That means so partially we can utilize as signaling application, and we can depopulate some pins for extending the equipage distance, and then so the other part or the other side of the connector we can utilize as a power carrying system.
Fantastic. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, Phil, you mentioned earlier on that some of the capabilities of Ernie is things like the contact design.
There's a huge amount of R&D that goes in to ensure the best possible design for the contact. Plating plays a key part, of course, as well. And all of our newer generation products are plated to class 1 plating, so the best in class. But there's all other factors, and we can share a link on something that you perhaps wouldn't see as a customer unless you look in our manufacturing. For example, where we stamp the contact, what we feel that the tool that stamps that will leave is a rough edge. So it's actually a standard part of our processing that we then take the contact and we turn it 180 degrees. So the mating side has never been touched by a stamping tool. Therefore, it's perfectly smooth and allows no erosion when male and female are mating in a high vibration or multi-mating, should we say, multiple times. So that's just one example of perhaps many of the hidden gems behind the production that you have to kind of come to our factory to witness and see. But it's the extra thought going on in the background that perhaps not all engineers and customers actually realize.
Yes, it's that attention to detail that I'm fascinated by, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that I think, as you say, customers don't necessarily think about, but how the contacts are made and how the connectors are made have as much impact on their performance as what they're made from, for example. So thanks for that. That's absolutely brilliant. Now, I think I mentioned earlier, my familiarity with Ernie is some years old, and I'm familiar, as you mentioned, about with the idea of the telecoms and the datacoms market. And that, I think, is very much the legacy from your point of view. And we've touched on industrial, we've touched upon automotive, but can you give us some more examples of some of the applications and some of the industries that Ernie has very much provided a solution for?
I mean, we listen to customer demands and it's pretty consistent, similar to what Jet said. Every customer wants the products to be as small as possible, the highest possible performance, and the highest level of reliability. Also, sometimes in higher temperature ranges than perhaps other products on the market. This makes the products really usable to every industry when connecting, if it's board to board or board to cable. I'm sure Jet could give us a few perfect examples of some applications where we see this live in the field.
I think talking about application and the connector application, so we have to split like application for board-to-board, application for wire-to-board or wire-to-wire. It's depend on the market requirement. And so in that case, the technical requirement behind each application is also different. And so in that case, so we need to understand clearly what it's really customer requirement, what is their pain point, what need to be solved to really to fulfill customer benefit at the end. So I think in that case, it's if you are talking about the connector feature, or we are always trying to figure out USP. I think it is really pretty hard to define exactly the USP which customer need. From my perspective point of view, it's a kind of a combination of different features like miniaturization, stacking high, or kind of temperature requirement, or carrying capacity. So all of that, I think, additionally also a connector robustness. All of that we have to translate in correct way from customer requirement to understand, okay, how the solution can be looks like and what kind of solution approach we can provide to the customer or to the market. And if we have this, so we can provide directly to the customer. If not, then we need to think about, okay, we have our expertise and how we can create the right solution approach, providing to the customer at the end to the market.
From the assembly process, where we also offer all of our products, the newer generation tend to come in surface mount technology, which allows, by utilizing a pick and place machine, a much faster and cost-effective assembly process. Also, the opportunity to put the connectors on both sides of the board is very appealing to customers. So it's sometimes not just the technology in the traditional sense of how fast can it go or how much power can it carry. There's additional factors that contribute to making the right choice for the products, and assembly cost is a key one within that as well, which is sped up a lot using surface mount technology.
One of the things you're talking about was temperature requirements and the fact that different plastics or different materials can provide different temperature performance. And plastics are not really a fashionable thing to talk about at the moment, what with lots of people talking about single-use plastics. But when it comes to connector design, I believe Ernie's chosen a specific product, liquid crystal polymer, or LCP. Can you give us a few ideas about why LCP is a solution for Ernie connectors?
Okay, so yes, it's correct. Mainly we are utilizing LCP for our connector housing. And so in case of why we decide utilizing LCP, because from processability point of view, it's it's very easy to processable to control the molding process of the LCP. And so additionally, coming from the market requirement, so we have a product which is has high temperature requirement, and LCP is really predestinate for fulfilling this temperature requirement. And additionally, in case of miniaturization, so as you know, we have product which has the casing wall around 0.2 millimeter. So LCP is also the predestinate base material, which is realizing miniaturized connector system with really a very miniaturized packaging. So that's why we decide utilizing LCP for molding.
Following on from what Jet said, at a higher level, very simply summarized, it allows us to offer the connectors at a plus 150 degree working temperature, which really stands us out from a lot of the competitors on the market.
One of the other things that I wanted to touch upon, I think, Jet, you mentioned the idea of board-to-wire and board-to-board type connectors. And I think that's one of the things that Ernie brings to the solution is the flexibility in terms of how connectors are mounted. So Phil, you talked about surface mount. Jet, you talked about board-to-wire and board-to-board. How does Ernie provide that kind of flexibility for customers?
So in that case, we have different type of solution approach. As you said, talking about board-to-board or wire-to-board, and from application and requirement point of view, it's quite different. And if you're talking about board-to-board requirement, so we have to understand, okay, what kind of connection is it? Has a low profile or high profile requirement, or do we need additional board-to-board adapter to extend the stacking height? So in that case, generally speaking, talking about the board-to-board requirement, we are talking about 5 up to 20 millimeter board-to-board differences. And in some application, the requirement is goes up to 40 millimeter. So in that case, so we need to think about, okay, what kind of solution approach we can provide to the customers, and in combination with the requirement of EMC, electromagnetic interference. So it's also a kind of topic which come up more and more if you are talking about high-speed solution approach. So in that case, we need to think about, in case of providing solution approach, connection to solution approach, so how we can solve customer pain point like this to create the benefit for the customer. So we have shielding connector system, but based off that, so what kind of additional solution approach we can provide to the customer? Is it a kind of higher pin density? It's a kind of customer prefer to have high profile board-to-board connector, not utilizing additional board-to-board adapter. And then additionally, so we have to understand, okay, what kind of termination it's also need to be provided. Talking about the typical termination system, SMT or THR, or also press fit is also possible. In that case, really, we need to understand customer requirement and then interpreting in a right way for figure out the right solution approach providing to the customers.
Fantastic. So I've got one more question for Phil, and it's about TE Connectivity. Obviously, I know Ernie as a connector company with 75 years of standing, but Ernie is now part of the TE Connectivity family. Can you tell us a little bit about why that change has happened and the things that TE can help with the Ernie brand and vice versa?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, this is a really, really exciting time for the Ernie brand under the ownership from TE. TE recognized that the Ernie products really are a complement to the existing TE products, especially in their industrial business unit. And it's true, there's really not so many crossovers. All of the Ernie families fill some gaps in the portfolio currently offered. For me personally, as a long-time employee of Ernie and now an employee of TE, I'm really excited at the exposure that TE can bring for the products to the market. And we're seeing already growth, which I think will continue exponentially by utilizing their multiple platforms to market, be it through channel or with direct sales, access to customers that perhaps Ernie could not penetrate in the past. And I think the summary is it's a really very exciting time for the brand, and we'll see it grow and flourish in the market globally in a very short time.
That's fantastic. And I think at that point, that's the perfect point for me to summarize now. Ernie is a company that I've known for many, many years, but as we've seen, my experience of Ernie has now very much come from the past and is a legacy. Ernie is now part of the TE Connectivity family and has evolved its technology to branch out into a whole range of applications where the quality of the Ernie products, the reliability, the speed, the power carrying capability are all lending themselves to these high reliability requirements. So automotive, industrial automation, medical, these are markets that demand performance and cannot afford to have to worry about whether a connector is going to do the job. So I want to say thank you to Phil and to Jet for running us through some of these technologies and explaining how they have evolved and are now servicing these new customers, these new markets. For anybody who wants additional information about these products, there will be a wealth of information to go along with this video. There'll be a Design Spark post and we will provide links to not only the products themselves, but I'll also provide some links to some of the information that Phil mentioned in terms of how things like the contacts are created that give you an idea of some of the thought and some of the detail that goes behind the design to make sure the products are going to perform in the markets they need to. So keep your eyes on Design Spark for all the information about the products themselves and how they're designed. Go to rs.com. That will give you lots of information about the availability of the products and places that you can get them. It's a broad range of availability there. And so the last thing for me to do is to thank Phil and to thank Jet for joining me on this video today. And to thank you, the viewer, for taking this time to watch us talk about connectors, and we'll see you on the next video.